And we're back. This is day number 2 of our favorite games of 2022, and we're hopping in with our 4th game of the year. Fourth game in the list of our favorite games. It's not really game of a year because we don't really go like in one year. It's like
right, because we don't only play games from this year because we're busy dads or adults, and so like, hey, this game from 2020 or this game from 2005, I've always wanted to play it, and so we just find time to play great games, and sometimes they crack into our top 5.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So who wants to pop off? Anybody?
Eric's got the ball.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Day 2. We're all wearing the same clothes though. That's crazy.
It's weird. Oh, and by the way, this is Shelby Stokes, Casey Cool, Phil, Karen, and Eric Scott.
Oh, you almost said his name right, Philip.
Philip.
Phillop. I'll never let him.
So
there's an inside joke there. Go ahead.
My number 4 game, I struggled with this game in particular because I could have left this game off the list. I could have put this game at number 1. In the end, I had to put it at number 4. It is Pokemon Scarlet.
Wow.
Whoa.
I know it just came out. I have over 60 hours into the game already. I am shiny hunting. I am making sandwiches. I'm trying to get to the legendaries without looking up the locations for all the stakes. I'm almost there. I'm doing so much. I'm raising different Pokemon. I'm talking with friends about raiding. We got the Charizard raids, today, right? Or no, this week?
This week, Wednesday.
Yeah. Wednesday. That's tomorrow. What day is it? It's just, I'm having a blast with the game. And yeah, so why number 4? Why so low?
Why number 4?
Because it's a beta game. It's not finished. It's the least polished Pokemon game that I have played in a long time. It is depressingly just, and the thing that I hate about it, and I come from a generation, we all come from the generation. You bought a game, the game was finished. You put it in your, you put the cartridge in, you put the disc in, that's your game. The idea of DLC is something that offended me for the longest time. So I don't like it when I feel like money is just being extracted from my pocket. And when it's so clear that the game...
That's called capitalism, baby.
Yes, it is so clear that the game was put out into production. They knew the game was like this. How could you not know the game is like this? So yeah, almost didn't even make it on the list, but in the end, for all of the great things that it is, it's the most immersive Pokemon experience, and it's as a beta game, that's saying a lot.
Wow.
It is, yeah.
Huh. That's crazy because it feels like I know we were just having a podcast last week about how it's one of the greatest Pokemon
depending on when you
movie
did
again. Yeah. And that's surprising, but understandable.
That's still true.
I cannot give such an unpolished, clearly unfinished rush to production. Here, take my money in time for Christmas game. I can't give it the top spot. I just can't do it.
It's still in the top 5. You're honoring it, but you can't get the number 1.
I'm gonna be playing it all week. I'm gonna be playing it for months. It's so much fun.
It'll be his 2024 or 2023 game of the year.
It's gonna be in the next year's list. I love the game.
Yeah, for sure. I love the game too, and it is not my number 4 game though. My number 4 game is Triangle Strategy.
Whoa!
Yeah. I played. It was been documented heavily. I played every route. I did everything in that game, up to 165 hours playtime. And the thing that game does beautifully, like Eric said, is the battle system. And there is storytelling with choices. But when you replay the game, there's these little side vignettes. And I know Shelby started playing in Fire Emblem 3, or Fire Emblem 3 Houses. And Fire Emblem has really perfected like character relationships with dialogue. Like, hey, my character's been hanging out and there's like a side mission or something for them. There's a little bit of that, but every character only has one like interlog story that you unlock, like a 3-act. And I want more of that if I'm going to, because I'm like, I never have this character in party with this character, right? It's just their friends. They like, hey, here's the story. So I didn't like that. I think a lot of it when you replay it, there's like, okay, I have to play everything, but then I'm going to do these two things different. It should be the paths are really clear. There's 4 paths. I got the ultimate ending, which spoilers is the best. I've talked to Eric about it. So if anybody hasn't played Triangle Strategy, I will save the spoiler. But the golden ending brings it all together. If you just play it one time and then go for the golden ending, you're fine there too, and you'll get the whole experience. I would recommend that way to play it. I don't think you have to do all 4 unless you're like, oh, I can't figure out this character's story. Beautiful soundtrack, nails the grid battling, the interactive environments. Like you could set grass on fire, and so most of the game I'm burning down every field and using it as a fire shield, and then I put my archers behind it, and the NPCs like, I'm not going into fire, and so I'm an arsonist in that game. But still, it's that creative battling, and that's where tactics needed to evolve to. I'm really hoping they get to do another project. Also, the voice acting was just a slog, and we've talked to professional voice actors about it. I think just a little bit of voice acting would have been good, like for key phrases, because it slows down everything. And so it's a lot of talky, and there needs to be more dewy, and it also like a world map. That's why it's my number 4. Great game though. I still recommend it, but it has the flaws stick with me where it's not the most enjoyable experience I played this year as a JRPG.
Understandable.
It is a great game, and the point you make about the fire is it's so true.
Fire, lightning,
level.
And water.
Yep.
Lightning and water. They do that. Like they make the interactive. It's great. Love that.
Yeah.
Like next level. Like
exactly.
Let me knock the castle wall down to fall on people. You can push people off bridges. Love all that.
Yes.
They're doing everything with the battling right. They just got to nail the little like outside story pieces.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like this is our top 5 games of the year, and like we play a lot of games, we see a lot of games. Like my game count is embarrassing this year, and like these are like what I'm getting at is like just because a game is not number 1, it's still a very good game. You know what I mean?
We think of it. Which one made our heart sing the most? Like which one is like, yes, this tried to Sailor Moon, Crystal, like, oh, I'm in love, right? Yeah, no. That's for sure.
How about you, Philip? What do you got in the 4 spot?
Well, for me, a lot of discussion was had this year from me anyways, and maybe me and you, Shelby, about nerd cred and which games are the classics, which games do you have to play that give you credibility when you offer an opinion on a game. And so for me, 2 of the games on my list are going to be nerd cred games. One of them is going to be did I steal one of yours already?
No,
one of them is going to be Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
So Chrono Trigger makes it on the list for me. As somebody, I think that as I've developed as a person, right, and as we get older, my relationship with RPGs just changes. So I don't look for experiences that I can put 50 to 100 hours in. I'm much more in the line. I think that you can relate to this, Shelby. Like when I'm playing a story-driven game and I'm not playing a competitive game with friends, I'm looking for 10 to 15 hours to complete the narrative. But Chrono Trigger was amazing. Contextually, as an RPG, it does every single thing right. The battle system is great. There are excess items in the game, so there's way too many items that you don't need. But the mechanics work great. Everything is a close distance away. Yeah. So everything is a close distance from each other. You don't really have to do a ton of walking. You don't have to do an excessive amount of dialogue. The boss battles are something that makes the game shine because the boss battles are completely interesting and they actually force you to think about how you're going to beat them. I know that after doing a 4-hour stream, which is a long time for me, which I will make a side note and say, it does feel every time I do the final stream on a game, whether it's Half-Life 2 or whether it's Chrono Trigger, my stream crashes. So after 4 hours on a stream, I was exhausted. I did not beat the final boss that night. I had to beat the final boss at 6 a.m. before work on stream. So that for me lands at number 4.
You got crispy Phil, salty Phil in the morning, like ready, got some hot takes. Man. I loved it. I love the early morning cozy JRPG. It was great to like get your day ready for, like, oh, look at that. I remember when you tried to fight Lavos, and I was like, what are you doing at level 30?
Man.
Like, I'm gonna beat the game. I'm like, you are not. Like,
Dude, chat baited him into that though. I watched it happen. You're like, oh, we should probably hang it up. And the guy's like, no, it's not that much longer.
I was like Big Brother. I came in, I'm like, no, they're lying to you. Stop it.
Well, that's the funny thing. That's the funny thing, right? It's like we all have that friend. I had this experience many years ago, or a couple years ago, when I played Red Dead Redemption 2. I said, oh, where am I at in the story? And the guy's like, oh, I was like, oh, I'm right here. And the guy's like, oh, you're like 2 hours away. And my family was out of town, so I had an entire game day. And 7.5 hours later, I still was not done with the game. So the moral of the story is, when your friends tell you, or your chat tells you that you only have an hour and a half left, they're definitely wrong. Even if you are like a pedal to the floor gamer like I am, where I have one save, I don't grab any items I don't need. I'm straight to the final boss whenever possible.
Phil uses the elixir as soon as he gets it. I respect him.
Yes. Everything is on the edge.
Yeah. So if you're watching the video version of this, Phil mentioned Chrono Trigger, and I rolled my eyes a little bit and did like a sigh, like, oh no, because this is a game that I have never completed, Chrono Trigger, and I watched you slog through that last couple of hours. I'm just like, I can't bring myself to do that. But if I'm not a true gamer, if you're going to insult my gamerhood, I will bear this cross if I must.
Here's my little nuance on Chrono Trigger, okay? The items, at a certain point, there's a time travel aspect to the game. If you go in the future and open the items and go back in time to the spots where they're at, if you open them back in time and save the game, you can't get them in the future because of the time paradox, right? The developers thought about that. If you go from the very like peak future and go back, you can get that chest like 3 or 4 times and stack your team. I was giving Phil builds. I was like, dude, this game goes plays. I'm telling you. And I'm so happy because it's a good piece of art. It's a good piece of history. That's the oldest game on this list, guaranteed. 1995.
Yeah, no, guaranteed. And I'm impressive that it holds up. And I've asked you that in multiple ways and multiple scenarios, Philip. And for you to be like, yes, no, it's still worth playing in 2022 is pretty impressive.
This is also really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, if you...
Oh, go ahead, Phil. Go ahead.
No, I mean, if you pick this game up now off Steam, I think it's like, what is it, $19, $15?
It's
something like that.
$12 on your iPhone.
Yeah, you can get 30 hours of playtime out of this, which for a modern day game, right? Some of these games don't even make it 8 hours. So you can get 30 hours of playtime for $8 and it works perfectly. What were you going to say, Casey?
So I might need to buy a Steam Deck just to play this game, is what I'm hearing you say.
Or your phone.
You're not going to play it. Just stop. JRPGs are not your thing. Just accept that on the nerd.
He beat Yakuza. I'm going to give him that.
It's Philip's right. Like he's so right. He's so right. I'm just
you
like,
beat Yakuza. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Watch, I'm gonna come back from my vacation and be like, guys, I love Fire Emblem. It's gonna be crazy.
I love it. That's my dream.
Well, I mean, we have had a bunch of takes from Shelby this year throughout the podcast where he's been like, man, this game sucks. And then like as he's playing it, like actually we're like, what was it? What was the game that you played
Tiny Tina?
Mario's plus Rabbids.
Yeah, you totally turn on that.
Landed
you had a total role reversal on that game.
That landed at number 6 on my game of the year. So I have a top 10 list and it was number 6. So
here's the thing.
It was up there.
This is the first year Shelby and I haven't like had a general idea of who's gonna say what, and I have no clue what you guys are gonna say. We've all really guarded our cards for like, this is my number one. Like we've made it clear we're gonna surprise each other. So I'm really excited. It's fun to hear. I'm just happy Chrono Trigger made your list, Phil.
I am too.
That makes my day.
So my number 4 game is a game that I've talked to any of you about. I get to this place about November, December, where I start playing a game and I'm like, I really like this game, but it's coming right before the game of the year. So I don't know if it's too close to when we're doing these lists or not. But my number 4 game is a game called Soma. And Soma came out in 2015, and it's a narrative-based game where you start off and you are in a random apartment in Toronto, and you get a call on your phone, and it's like, hey, you need to come in and do the brain scan. And he's like, okay, got to take the medicine. So you go through like the first 20 minutes, you get into this chair, and all of a sudden you are teleported into a freighter in space.
Yeah, it's like kind of a scary game, right?
It's a
It's
horror
video
game. And
Yeah,
essentially
Ugh.
what it's diving into is you have this character, and I'm going to spoil Soma because I think like the gems and why you should play this game are in the narrative. So I'm going to spoil a little bit of it.
Okay.
But you get about a third to the halfway through the game, and what you realize is that first character that you started with, his conscience was essentially uploaded as an AI. And now every time they boot AI computers in the future, he is one of the main characters that they boot. So essentially they keep copying and pasting his intelligence across different robots. And essentially what it starts breaking down to philosophically is like, if you take a being and they have the decision of choice and you put them in a robotic shell, are they a being? Like, do they exist? Do they have the right to exist? Can you kill somebody that is a robot but has the opportunity to make decisions?
Do robots dream of electric sheep? I believe is the time.
It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. And like it tackles some really intense issues throughout the course of the game. And this is something that has sat on my list of things to play since 2015. So it's been on my backlog for a very long time. I finally got through it, and I'm so glad I did, because it's a game that I go to bed and still think about the philosophy behind it. And I think it's just such a neat experience because there's no other medium that could tackle issues like Soma. No other medium would allow you to get into the decision-making process of a video game and then turn around and say, hey, you've been a robot the whole time. What do you think now? And it's just a moment where you're playing this game and you're like, wow, this is a very special story that they're telling. So that's my number 4 game, Soma. I believe it's on PC and the consoles. Highly recommend. It is a survival horror. I played like 3 or 4 horror games in a row, which is not my cup of tea, but this one was good.
How scared were you? Like, did it give you the jumpies? Did you get a little woo, like just give me
the horror sneak around the big monster is not good. Like it's essentially like, okay, I figured out he's in that side of the map after I reloaded. I'm just going to run where I need to go. Like, their horror mechanics are not the best. It's the narrative that carries this game.
Okay.
No.
Well, a horror game, surprise. The places you've gone, sir.
I know. They were Triangle Strategy from Casey, Pokemon Scarlet from Eric, Chrono Trigger from Philip, and I chose Soma as my number 4 favorite game of this year. We're now going to talk about the biggest news stories that we all chose in terms of the biggest development or something that struck you in terms of 2022 news.
I think the big one, and I think all of us it might be the same. Microsoft Monopoly, baby. Like, hey, they're penny bags, whatever his name is, buying Activision, buying all the big studios. That was huge, and the $1 billion acquisitions blew me away this year. That's the biggest news story to me as far as gaming goes, and it's still going on now with the FCC trying to get involved, or FTC, not FCC, FTC. And so we'll be curious to see where that goes in 2023.
Yeah, and there's been some back and forth. It depends on the week. Like, one week they're like, oh, it's going to go through. And the next they're like, oh, someone's holding it up. And it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves. And obviously there's other players that are, Sony's kind of involved and kind of drumming up some turmoil about it. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes through. But long story short, Microsoft has been gobbling up studios, and I think they're finally seeing their fruits of the labor this last couple of years.
Yeah.
Philip, what do you got? What's your favorite story of the year?
Well, I have 2. So my first one is from the news related. I don't really read a ton of gaming news, but mine would be the Diablo 4 release date of whatever it was, June 3rd of next year. That for me is something that I am very excited for. We're going to force Casey to let me play that for JRPG July next year. So I will be doing runs of Diablo in June, July.
We'll just drop the J. Yeah.
We'll just drop the
April, yeah.
And the second news story was an internal news story, which is that Shelby subsequently bought Nintendo Online and then subsequently canceled Nintendo Online after about 3 weeks. So it took Casey,
What a
at least
bum.
from what I know.
When he buys it,
took
though, hold on,
Casey
time out. You can't pay monthly. You bought the year.
No, I paid
I think he
monthly
bought
for
Did
sure.
you?
Yeah, the first month,
Yeah, it took
first month was
Casey-
free. The second month they hit my card, and
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
What a bum.
It took
Oh,
Casey about
man.
18 months to convince Shelby to buy Nintendo Online. So for those of you that follow us on the regular basis, this is a known fact that Shelby no longer
Yeah.
has Nintendo Online. He has decided that $5 a month, which is the cost of a mocha these days, is
Yeah.
not worth the countless free content that he would be free $5 content
Yeah.
that he would be getting from his Switch that he
Yeah.
takes with
So
him
true.
for
I
work.
think
So
Hey, can I tell you that I complain every time I play Fire Emblem Four Houses because they're like, you could grab the data from everybody else that played this game and look at
Three
it right
houses.
now if you paid for Nintendo Online. And I'm like, you Nintendo? I don't need to look at that data. I live
You
my
can have
life
my
on own
data.
screen."
You can know how to play the game. Like, oh, what did Casey do? Oh, duh.
So
Okay.
for those of you that don't know, if you want to donate to our Twitch, we will make sure that money goes towards Shelby's Nintendo Online. $5 gets him a month, and those are my two news stories.
Eric, what are your news stories?
It's just the one news story. The return of the Pokemon World Championships after a hiatus. It returned this year.
That's correct.
Yeah, it returned this year. It was held in London, and what was special about it to me was it was the first time I was actually able to follow it, and I was at your house, Casey, watching
We
it.
watched it together. That's true.
We watched it together.
The other big thing about it is Galar, the last region of Pokemon, was based in England.
Yes.
It represented a lot of things, kind of like COVID, like people winding down, people getting back together, people playing Pokemon together.
Yes.
It
Some
was
normalcy coming back into the world.
normalcy coming back.
Yes.
And there were some good games. Pokemon Sword.
Oh, lots of great games.
Will be hated on, not hated on, but it gets a bad rap. And then down the line, people are like, yeah, that was decent, wasn't it? Like, oh, all right. You know, there's some good moments to it. It's because people don't like soccer, and you had to wear a soccer jersey when you battled. That's why in America.
It was great to see. It was great to see, Pokemon fans coming together. It was just a fun event to watch. The energy seemed good, and the games were awesome.
Great
and
choice.
yeah, just a lot of fun. Pokemon World Championships, welcome back.
Well done. My news story of 2022 is Stadia.
Oh yeah,
Stadia was killed in 2022, and like you look at where everything is going. Like all the games are going to the cloud and being streamed out. I know there's people in our Discord that disagree. I don't. I think everything is going to the cloud eventually. And for the biggest player in tech, being Google, to get in, throw all this money down, and then back out so quickly is just like a head scratcher. Like I do not. Like it's a baffling moment for me. That is something that is just completely just like, why did you make this decision? You should have held out, because everything's going that way. You look at Netflix getting involved, you look at Microsoft buying everybody up, you look at Sony trying to grab up studios. Like everyone is going for content creation of this medium, and for Stadia to come out with all this fanfare and
Amazon
then just fold up is like, what? Like I'm still reeling from
That's
it.
a good pick, Shelby. Amazon with the Luna is still around. So here's where Google Stadium on paper sounds great, and then you see who's running it, and it's nobody that was in gaming. Like the writing was on the wall when the people in the project don't care about games.
Dude, their biggest problem was that they were charging $60 for their titles. If they seriously gave away 5 games like you've seen Epic do to create an Epic store, like they would be in a way better position than they are
Making
now.
a sub. Everybody uses Google. $2. Yeah. Hey, use this. Here you go. $2. We're the cheapest on there, and everyone uses us. No one that works in gaming or the people that were in the gaming space did not get heard on that project. It's clear to me. And that's a good pick. Yeah.
I mean, you're just watching the industry change, and for Google to sit there and be like, yeah, we tried it. It didn't work. It's just like, bro, all right. Okay.
We're tapping out.
Yeah.
And like they're fine. That's the part that gets me like, just drop in the bucket. I mean, okay.
I mean, honestly, they could restart Stadia tomorrow and probably be just okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. That company prints money, but that's neither here nor there. So those are our biggest stories of 2022. And this is going to conclude day 2 for us, right?
Day 2 is out. Day 3 is coming at you in a couple days, probably after the Christmas day or the Christmas holiday over the weekend. So check Monday for those watching here or listening.
And I'll be on a beach somewhere, so I'm not really worried about the schedule. But we'll see you tomorrow, or whenever tomorrow lands.
Play your games. Happy holidays.
Yes.